But Lee, then come on, we'll get on to the meat of what people actually want to hear your thoughts on. And I was interested in this, Lee, from the Telegraph, and it says, neither Badenoch nor Jenrick can save the Tories, and that's according to Sir John Curtis,
Yeah.
who is the UK's foremost polling expert, and he says actually two of the leadership contenders will not, I repeat, not unite the right after, of course, millions abandoned the party
Yeah.
alongside you, Lee, for Reform UK. And it shows Kemi Badenoch there with Robert Jenrick sat on the BBC. I wasn't watching the BBC, but I'm sure they were both marvellous as ever. But Lee, the serious question here from this is, which one of them would Reform fear the most?
Well, I want to be honest with you, Darren. I don't fear any of them. Kemi Badenoch is I class both of them as friends. I get on really well with them. I've got a majority nosedive. Well, Rob's did as well. My vote share is bigger than Kemi's. My vote is bigger than Rob's. Here's the problem that Rob's got, and I would have probably backed him, in the final two, even though I've backed Kemi in the past. The problem Rob's got is that he's got these ideas, this ideology. He wants to leave the ECHR. He wants to be tough on migration. He wants to deport illegal migrants. The problem he's got, Darren, is the parliamentary party will not follow him on that. He will struggle to assemble a shadow cabinet that's got his values. That's the problem he's got. I mean, a lot of the membership might follow him, but the actual, the 121 MPs he's got left in Parliament, they will not swallow this. And Kemi, she's, I think she's a strong lady, potentially a good leader. But again, will the country go for Kemi? I don't know. I think she's sort of turned her back on reform, said some things about Nigel as well over the past few weeks. I think that's a little bit of an insult. Sometimes it could be, thought of as two fingers stuck up to the reformers that left the
Yeah.
Conservative Party, voted reform for the first time. You're supposed to be winning these people back, not insulting their intelligence.
So then, what would you say to Robert Jenrick's claim then that he's going to make reform irrelevant? Do you think that in the next Parliament, if he stands strong as he keeps saying he will on the ECHR and things like that, and his MPs don't follow him, is he going to be strong enough to say to his MPs, "Well, it's my way or the highway"?
He's not strong enough. He can't be. He doesn't have the numbers, Darren. I mean, a lot of people like what Rob's got to say, leaving the ECHR, sorting out migration, illegal and legal migration. But the truth of the matter is, Darren, we know this. You look at what's left in Parliament. It's the One Nation lot. It's the Wets. Can he take them on that journey?
Yeah.
I think not.
Then the Kemi Badenoch point then, where she's saying that actually the silver bullet that Reform talk about quite often, leaving the ECHR, she's saying, look, that ain't a silver bullet, because actually there are a multitude of other things that need to happen, because British judges, who of course we have enshrined in law the Human Rights Act that Tony Blair put in place to actually put the ECHR on British statute. Well, she's saying that actually British judges would still be activist in their outlook. So, what would be the answer then to that, do you think? Because obviously she's right in saying we need root and branch reform,
I think what we
so
need,
to
Dan, we
speak.
need. Yeah, well, yeah, true. We need strong leadership in this country. We've not seen that since Maggie was around. I don't think what we need is, and I asked this in the House a couple of years back now, to declare a national emergency in this country. What's happening in the Channel is abhorrent. It's frightening. We've seen this lunatic who's been making these TikTok videos. We've seen people come over and commit rape and commit murder and attack children, all sorts of nonsense. It's time now. Well, it's long overdue, Dan, to
Yeah.
declare a
Oh, yeah.
national emergency. Show some strong leadership and stop these boats today. I tell you what, I could stop them tomorrow. I'd just pick them up and take them straight back to France. And we are under international law and maritime law. We're allowed to do that. But Parliament is weak. It's pathetic. It is spineless.
Do you find the Tory party arrogant in assuming that, a change of leader, like a new a dash of wallpaper is going to daze their former voters, 4 million of them that voted Reform, into thinking, well, hang on a minute, I'm going to go back to the Tories now, and I'm going to forget the fact that I feel utterly betrayed from my 2019 vote and the lack of delivery on the promises and pledges that were made in that 2019 manifesto. Do you find that arrogant in its tone, that assumption, Lee?
I think some of it is arrogance. I think some down is smugness, and I think some of it is they're just delusional. I mean, go to the Red Wall. I mean, you know the area quite well, like I do. That's where I live. That's where I represent. There was, 4 or 5 million people voted for Conservative for the first time in 2019, Darren. They've been let down. They think they've been lied to. They do not trust the Tory party anymore. And it's very, very arrogant to think that those first-time Conservative voters will come back at the drop of the hat. They won't. They've got long memories. They feel, quite disgusted, some of them, people like my parents and my friends and my family, and they're not coming back in a hurry. And they dislike the Labour Party with a passion, and they see Reform as an alternative. And that's why we got 4.1 million votes, Darren, at the last election. People are just fed up with the main two parties. They're sick to death of being promised something every election and getting something completely different in the 4 or 5 years that these parties are in power.
One of our viewers, Lee Gilbert, says Jenrick's background is very wet. Can he be trusted? And the question there is, Jenrick was someone that he campaigned to remain in the EU. He was a big proponent of David Cameron's premiership and all these other things. And he's had this sort of Damascene conversion to being Farage light. Some have called him a pound shop Farage. Maybe I wouldn't go that far. But you know what I mean? We're getting into territory here where you're having to second guess whether or not someone can actually do a complete change in that amount of time.
Well, it's funny, Dan, sometimes politicians who are probably not the most trustworthy profession in the land, a bit like journalists and broadcasters, they can change the tune very, very quickly. We live in a murky world. We work in a murky world. And, politics for some people is about power. It's about prestige. It's about the money. It's about getting to the top of this greasy, greasy pole, when sometimes politicians forget what they've said in the past, forget what they've done in the past. The bottom line is, Rob's, he might claim about. By the way, I've got the greatest respect for Rob.
Yeah.
All claim he's been on a journey. Maybe he's seen the light. And, he wants to be prime minister. He wants to leave the party. But a lot of people will see through this. They'll see through this. This claim that is this. Tough on immigration. Wants to deport people. Wants to leave this ECHR. But like I said previously, Dan, early on in this clip, that he has to take the parliamentary party with him. I don't think he can.
Yeah. And then on that point, then, I mean, if you were in the Home Office, maybe we'd all do that, Lee, right? Maybe we'd all start to see the light, because when you're in the Home Office, surely you get to see the extent to which there's been institutional capture of our institutions, and actually the fact that the madmen run the asylum, and women. I'm not discriminatory here, Lee, I promise.
Well, don't discriminate, Dan. You're quite right. There is some lunatics running the asylum. Well, they have taken over the asylum. You've probably seen many, many times, Dan, when I've been sat on the Home Affairs Select Committee before I was ruthlessly booted off by the last government. When I've had the chance to quiz ministers and Home Office officials, absolutely pathetic. It's childlike. It was like, for me sometimes, Darren, interviewing, asking questions to 5-year-old children. They were ill-equipped with the information. They didn't know the brief, and quite frankly, Dan, I don't think they were bothered.
Yeah. I mean, Elizabeth on YouTube, Lee, says the Tories have an overbloated sense of entitlement and treat their electorate with contempt. They don't own us. And I think there's a lot of that sentiment. They're going to have to do some real hard work. But my final question for you, Lee, is from Substack, and it's from Julia on Substack. Hiya, Julia, if you're watching. And Julia says, given what you've just said, Lee, on the fact that Robert Jenrick wouldn't be able to do what he promises to do because there's so many wets in the Conservative Party, wetter than an otter's pocket, you might say, or wetter than a weekend in Newcastle. And Julia says, how many, given that what you've just said, how many right-leaning Tories would want to come to Reform? Do you think Suella might be up for it? Because if the Tories ain't going to deliver, we need a political home that is going to do that, don't we?
But it's a fair question, Darren, to be honest. But, we only, 3 months into a parliament. If anybody was thinking, I don't think they would jump this early. They're going to wait to see how the land lies. They're going to wait for the local elections next year. We've got big county council elections in May. I predict now on this channel that Reform UK will make massive gains. The year after, we've got the Welsh and Scottish elections. Where they've got PR voting in those countries. So we know in South Wales we're polling very, very good at the moment.
Yeah,
I think we're polling about 15% in Scotland. So we're going to pick seats up there as well,
yeah.
Dan. We've got the regional mayor elections as well. We're going to pick up some mayoral posts up and down the country. So us politicians are a selfish bunch as well, and some will jump ship if they think they're going to lose their job. And come 2 or 3 years time, the writing will be on the wall. I think for the main two parties. And a colleague of mine, Rupert Lowe, said to me when they first got elected that we would win the next election. I thought he was mad. But looking at it now, we've got nearly 100,000 members in Reform. Our vote share is climbing every single day. In the Red Wall, our polling is phenomenal. My own personal polling in Ashfield is nearly 50%. I was
Wow.
43 when I got elected. It's only going one way, Darren. And if these people want a career in politics, and let's remember, a lot of them are more interested in a career in politics and actually doing the right thing. They will jump ship for the wrong reasons, some of them, some for the right reasons.
Yeah, I mean, in Scotland, it's going to be amazing to see because I tell you what, watching Reform politicians go up against Nicky Sturgeon and Humza Useless, I think will make my day, Lee. So I can't wait for that. I know I said that was my final question, but this is my final question. Is Nigel safe? A lot of people are asking because of this lunatic with a Kalashnikov tattooed across his face.
Yeah. Well, he is lunatic, and you've seen the first three letters of his name. I think it's MAD, mad. He's
Yeah.
quite clearly mad, unhinged. We don't know where he is. I mean, personally, I wouldn't be scared of this lunatic, Darren. But it's not that; it's the message he's putting out there. He's got a TikTok following. There's going to be other lunatics trying to emulate this idiot, and doesn't it say something, Darren, about the times we're living in when this idiot can actually barrack us online? He's taking the mick, is saying these awful, nasty, vile things. And you know what? It would not surprise me if he landed on these shores and we put him in a hotel and then let him go through the asylum process. It is absolutely lunatic. I've got my own ideas how we should deal with these creatures. I'm not going to say it on your channel because I'll probably be on the front of the Guardian tomorrow morning.
Well, that's true. That's true. But they're saying today that they're rolling back on their manifesto pledge to actually stop putting them up in hotels, and they're rolling back on that, Lee. So what's next? What's going to be next? We're all screwed. What we need is Reform MPs in Parliament, of course. That'll fix it, and in Downing Street, that would be very nice.
Well, what you
All
need to
right.
do then, Dan, is step up to the plate, join the Reform Party, and come and stand at the next election.
Absolutely. All right, Lee, thank you very much. You can catch Lee on GB News on a Friday night. And Lee, we'll see you on this channel very, very soon indeed. Thank you very much, my friend. Have you got what it takes to be a reasoned presenter? Well, send us a short clip of yourself to join@reasoned.uk and we might be seeing you on this very channel very soon indeed.